Feature tonight, an interview with Seán McGuire and Brian McCollum. First of all, let's hear from their new LP. This is a song by Brian.
When I first saw your gallery, I liked the ones of ladies. Then you began to hang up me and studied to portray me in ice and greens and old blue jeans and naked in the roses. Then you got into funny scenes that all your work discloses. Lady, please love me now. I am dead. I'm no saint. Turned on your bed. I have no heart. That's what you said. I can be cruel, but let me be gentle. I gave you all my pity when we began to weather. Then you left me to winter here while you went west for pleasure. But now you're flying back this way like some lost homing pigeon. They've monitored your brain, you say, and changed you with religion. Lady, please love me now. I am dead. I'm no saint. Turned on your bed. I have no heart. That's what you said. I can be cruel, but let me be gentle. Somewhere in a magazine, I read a page about you. I see that now it's Josephine, but can it be without you? I keep your house in fit repair. I dust the portraits daily. Your mail comes in from everywhere. The writing looks like lady. Lady, please love me now. I am dead. I'm no saint. Turned on your bed. I have no heart. That's what you said. I can be cruel, but let me be gentle. When I first saw your gallery, I liked the ones of ladies, but now their faces follow me, and all their eyes look shady. Lady, please love me now. I am dead. I'm no saint. Turned on your bed. I have no heart. That's what you said, is that I can be cruel, but let
that's the song there called The Gallery from Seán McGuire and Brian McCollum's new album just out. Seán and Brian, you're very welcome to Sunday Folk.
Thank you.
Thank you indeed.
Brian, that song, a song written by Joni Mitchell.
It is indeed from one of the many albums of Joni Mitchell, and it's a particular song that I took fancy to many years ago in New York. I picked up an album and went through the different ones, and sort of this song stayed with me, and then we decided we'd put it on the album. It seems to be a strange type of song, describes the travels of a painter, how he went off west for pleasure and he came back home again and said he had been changed by religion and all the rest of it and wanted...
What a stupid man. Why did he want to do that?
Well, Seán, tell us a little bit about what you've been doing, where you've been playing in that since.
Well, I'm in convalescence, and if right was right, I should be dead. But thanks to the good care of the medical profession of the hospital where I was in, they've made it possible for this interview to take place today. And hopefully I'll be restored to full power in the not too distant future. I have a lot to still contribute to the revival of the old music, and I believe if I abide by the code laid down by the doctors, everything should be okay and I should be getting all clear, and then I'll really get down to it.
Talking about the revival of the old music there, how do you feel it's going, is it?
I think it's progressed terrific now within the last few years, and it's great to see the extent and amount of kids who are taking an interest in it. And this delights me because I'll tell you why. I'm learning from what they're playing. I'm all the time learning. New ideas are being transmitted to me from their recitals. And this is good for me. And it's encouraging me, you understand, to keep the standard where I want it as high as possible.
Well, I think that's a fairly novel idea, the thoughts that you can actually learn something, that older musicians can learn something from younger people.
You see, I accept the fact I'm learning all the time. If you say to yourself, no, I stopped learning, you're beat.
Is there a tendency among older musicians maybe to do that sometimes?
Well, there are some of them. You see, they're bloody cranks, you know, like, generally speaking. I don't care that these get a fixed idea. My grandfather played the tune this way, and that must be orthodox according to them. Well, as far as I'm concerned, it's not a case of what was good enough for my father is good enough for me. Right. Now, music, I accept, is something that lives, and something that lives must progress. Now, it's bloody easy for these people, or self-styled purists, to contradict what exactly I'm doing, because I'll tell you why. It's a way out over their heads. I live in hopes and expectations that one day the penny will drop and it'll say, well, McGuire wasn't a bad player at all, when you stop and think of it. He wasn't doing all that much harm. I hope they'll see it that way. It's intended that they do see it that way, that it's a case of progression, forward, not backwards.
Is there a tendency not to progress? Is there a tendency among organisations
who
are...
they have fixed images, you see, and they don't want these disturbed. Now, these self-appointed purists are very guilty of this, and they totally reject out of hand. I'm only one of many, singled out, that comes in for a shot from these people. But it doesn't disturb me, because I'll tell you why. They're personally doing me a favour. They're keeping me in front of the cameras and in front of the media, everywhere. When they're talking about McGuire, some poor creature's been left alone. This is how I accept it.
Right, well, before we have some more chat, we're going to listen to another piece of music. This comes from the Shetland Islands, I think, Seán.
It's a composition by a very, very close friend of mine. I've been to the Shetlands, and they're great people. My God, if you've seen the tributes and cards that came to me while I was in hospital, I never thought that I had as many friends as what I have in Shetland. Now, the name McGuire is a household word in the Shetland Islands, as well as Orkneys. And This composition is by a very intimate friend, Tom Anderson of the Shetland. And I'll tell you, he's the founder and still the leader of the Shetland 40 Fiddlers. So it won't do the customers any harm to hear this beautiful slow melody of Tom Anderson's.
And it's called The Resting Chair. That's The Resting Chair there, a piece of music from the Shetlands. You mentioned there before that piece, Sean, something about the Shetland 40 Fiddlers. Perhaps you'd tell us a little bit
Tom
about
Anderson
them.
is over 70 now, and Tom got the 40 Fiddlers together when he was in his early 50s. And they're of all age groups, young and old, men and women. And you never heard a sound like it in your life, backed by piano and string bass. In other words, what we call now, not the bass guitar, the bowl fiddle. And it gives a terrific punch behind 40 fiddles playing in unison.
Did they record much?
Oh yes, they have done. They've done quite a lot of recordings for the BBC archives, and they've done, I think it's 6 commercial records for different companies. But they are they're really outstanding. And you see, the fiddle, the Shetlands, they don't reject other instruments, but the fiddle is the king of instruments in the Shetlands, you see. And what I discovered when I went there first was very interesting. They played some Irish music, and they had the first part right, but they had the second part all wrong. They were the cock on the second part, you see, and they blew it. So I said to them, lads, I think there's a ship doors here someplace. Best thing to do is sort this lot out. So I started to play what I believe was the second part of the tune. Now, see, what happened was, many, many years ago, our fishermen used to run inshore into the Shetlands. You see, they being a Celtic race, this didn't suit the laws of the land governed by England. So Paddy and the Shetlands might have been talking in terms of other ideas apart from fishing and fiddling. And so the laws that they stepped in and imposed a salt tax on our fishermen, which they had to accept and stay at home. That finished the trips and the fishing trips to the Shetlands. But the Shetlanders still have a warm heart for the people of Ireland, and I'm assured we are constantly in their thoughts. That I can convey to you personally and to the listeners. We are forever in the thoughts of the Shetland people. And I'll tell you something, I don't hesitate to say this. Right, we are very proud of our flagpoles. They have started their Shetland festivals. I was honoured to be the guest at the first one. I advise anybody, if you want royal treatment and a red carpet rolled out, go to the Shetlands Festival.
Absolutely. Well, the next two pieces that we're going to hear, I certainly don't think there's any doubt about them as good pieces. Santa, Áine and St. Anne's Reel. Seán, anything you'd like to say about them before we hear them?
I love the song, and the St. Anne's Reel came from Newfoundland. I, again, have ties in Newfoundland, and only last month, a very personal friend of mine, Dr. McCollum, was home, and I had him as my guest at my house for 4 days, and he's gone back now. And again, the name is very high in Canada, because I've been to Canada twice, and what I found was somewhat a shock, and I often told this to your Aidan O'Hara, Áine. I remember one night in Canada, I was given a recital, and this old lady came up to me, and after I finished, she said, are you really Irish? And I said, yes, I am. So she said, boy, I like that music, she said. So I said, I'm delighted you did, I said, that you're not going away disappointed. Well, she said, if I had known it was Irish music tonight, she said, I would have had my little leprechaun badge up. See, now, I don't know what you meant by up or where, but I looked at her and I said, Mrs., I'm far from being a leprechaun, you know, and to the best of my knowledge and recollections, there's no leprechauns that I ever heard plays fiddles like that. You know, the squeal pipes, I know that, but they don't play fiddles back in our country. And I said, there's another thing, Mrs. You know, I said, we think so much of our washerwomen, we can never forget them. And she said, gee, there's one you'll have to play for me, she says. The Irish washerwoman. She said, Mrs., you've arrived too late, the G-string's gone. Finished.
Lovely. Well, let's listen to Santa, Áine and St. Anne's.
Good idea, good idea.
We're sailing across the river from Liverpool, heave away, Santiano, round Cape Horn into Frisco Bay, way out in California. So heave her up and away we'll go, heave away, Santiano. And away we'll go, and we're bound
Seán McGuire for the time being. Take a short break, then we have the 9 o'clock news, and we'll be back again with Seán McGuire Part 2.
Over Sunday folk. And now to continue with the Seán McGuire interview. The next question that I asked Seán was if the St. Anne's Reel, which you heard there before the news, was an Irish tune.
It's a reel from Canada. It's of Canadian origin. And I think it came from Nova Scotia.
You wouldn't have any doubts at all about the way music is being taught to younger people or anything like that?
No, the point is this. Look, we were all blessed with a pair of ears. And the system to teach, well, it's open to controversy. If a kid reads music, reads it. But if it hasn't an ear for music, you're wasting your time. Whereas a child that has an ear for music can sit down and pick it up off a tape recorder or a transistor, and he or she's flying. And the only shortcoming then is to get that kid taught the theory of music. So they have everything going for them today. They have greater chances than I ever had. There was no tape recorders around in my time. You know, now don't get an idea that I'm 70 or 80 years of age. You know, I'm only still a young fella. I'll tell you, I'm over 21, you know. But speak for yourself. I'm telling you that the kids today have golden opportunities laid on for them that Earl Brian here and a young fellow like myself never had. You see, but we're managing the point of getting the message across to them. And the kids are giving us a kick, and I hope we're giving the kids a kick. My idea is to transmit it to them, you see, and leave something for them to work on when I'm long since up there playing the harp. I'm very bad hand at shoveling coal.
Just on that point, just 1 second there, Seán. Where did you learn your music? Where did you pick up the fiddle?
I was taught by 2 expert teachers. One was a man, and he was a living dread, a terrorist. They used to call him the fiddling terrorist. Now they call me the fiddling terrorist. And then he began to get careless, and he gave me a letter of introduction to Madam May Nesbitt. Now, both these people, very, very luckily for me, resided in the city of Belfast. Dr. George Vincent was trained in Germany. Madam May Nesbitt was a pupil of the late Dr. Keeler's, a German who taught in Belfast. The one gave me a brilliant fingering technique, and the other gave me a brilliant bowing technique, which a lot of the traditional fiddle players, and yes, a lot of our classical players, are hassling with today, that they can't control the bow or they can't control the fingers. The coordination is lacking. But thanks be to God, it's not lacking in the case of myself. I make that bow do as I want it to do. It will not wander and brush my fingers. I can assure you it'll stay where I put it.
And certainly well worth listening to. Rathlin Island is a song, Brian, which comes from up around the northern part of the country.
From the northern north of Antrim, and it was composed by a teacher in Belfast, school teacher in Belfast, and we picked it up, and there's some changes in the first verse. We couldn't find out who composed the song, and we put out different feelers to try and find out before we recorded. And one night we were playing in Plenty's, and the songwriter appeared, and he was delighted with the changes that we had made in it. I hadn't picked up the words correctly originally, and I made slight changes in the different verses to my own liking, and he was very pleased with it, and with his full permission he said record away, and we like the song. It's nice and fresh. There's sort of a memory of Mingley Boat song in the background that he used in there, and but nevertheless, nice song, nice free song about fishing and returning home to a couple of pints down in Cushendun, I think it is, in McBride's in Cushendun. So the song is nice. It's a new song, but nevertheless quite nice composition, and the lyrics and music seem to fit in quite good.
Right then, let's have a listen to Rathlin Island.
drive us onward. What care we for the wind or spray? It's a life for the man of freedom, with a sound boat and trusty crew, with the sea for his realm and kingdom, and the wild seas and gannets too. Sailing southward from Rathlin Island, past Fairhaven by Murlough Bay, with a north wind to drive us onward. What care we for the wind or spray?
That's a song called Rathlin Island there. Well, finally, before we leave you, Brian and Sean, what are the plans for the next few months?
Well, that is hard to say at the moment because I'm still in convalescence, as I explained earlier on. And it's to be hoped that all them good people remain praying for me and that I get the all clear in the not too distant future. I'll ask Brian to finish the interview with what he has in mind. He's the boss man. I'm only the Mickey Mouse man.
Oh, I think that Sean's feeling pretty good, and he has had a very difficult fight, but he looked on the bright sides, and I think he'll be around for quite a while, and I think you can decide for yourself he's playing better than ever, and not as well as before, but better than ever.
I think there's certainly going to be an awful lot of people delighted to hear that. It's been a great pleasure talking to you, Brian and Sean, and thank you very much for coming to talk to us on Sunday Folk.
Thank you, Áine. Pleasure.